Hello everyone, it's Matt here and welcome to the mini May vlog. So, just a little information change to that. Um, Last night, and I'll say last night in the early hours of this morning, it was about 2 o'clock when I finally decided to call it quits. Um, I was on Hangouts with Glenn Holland, better known as Streamline Bricks, and one half of the Brickmania Railroader team. And it was quite a good chat. We talked about everything from Promontory 150 to the Big Boy and loads of stuff like that, like the Brickliner and stuff like that. So it was a really wide-ranging discussion and talk and that. And I was watching him because we did a video chat and we were able to watch. And I was while I was doing my own bits and pieces, I was watching him do work on his new 280. So it was nice to see that, and nice to hear what was happening and that sort of stuff. I have suffered from it. I'm not going to deny that, but there are quite large bags under my eyes. But it was a nice chat. It's been quite a nice discussion. Showing off the gondola work. So which will be coming up. I am going to be doing a Brick Model Road freight car update this month. I did a bit of recording last month, which I'm gonna have to scrub. I mean, it was only a minute, but you know, I'm efforting, as you might say in AML speak. Um, so that was a nice chat and that sort of stuff. So, um, it was quite interesting to hear some of the stuff and about like Promontory. It was more a case of, well, we could have done like the actual locos, like the Virginian and not Virginian, and like the 103 or whatever it is. And they sort of went, well, actually, because of the big boy, it's probably better if we do the big boy and then we can just do the other ones after. So it's interesting discussion. That is this. So on the little show notes, the next one item is the Suburban Tank. So I'm going to be careful about this because it's only on some curved track. But carefully does it. Ta-da! Now this is not complete, as you can see. There's a huge amount of gap there in the boiler. There's a few other bits and pieces missing. I've got to sort out the front of the loco, so if I gently change hands there. So this whole section here, I need to essentially build the frame out, and then that should be okay. Then I've got to do with the boiler support, rebuilding the tanks and cab. The cab's actually still configured how it was when the motor was higher up, but because I've reworked the motor chassis, the motor's actually come down about, I said, almost a brick in height. So it's a lot better mechanism now. It's a lot tighter. Still does this. It's still got the same gear ratio, so it's still effectively a direct drive between the motor and the wheels. But it's just using different gears. There's different spacings, and it's all just shrunk down. So there's actually quite a lot more space now. And there might be enough space if I can find where I put it. And there should be enough space to fit in a PFX brick in the cab and have the speaker there as well. So it won't be out. It'll still be out the engine. It just won't be out the the actual end, which would make all the noise. So that's going to be quite nice. So yeah, I've got to sort out the tanks, build the front frame up, and then the boiler can rest on that. And there's just a load of little bits and pieces. I have fixed most of the incorrect colourings from just after the destruction. So those of you seen the model and the previous versions of it know that there was like yellow stripes on the boiler bands because I didn't have any 1x4 curved slopes in black at the time. I've done fixed the funnel. I've changed some of the bits around the smoke box. They're now the correct colour. The cab, I've altered that slightly and changed that. There's still a few incorrectly coloured pieces around the back and in the cab and around the front there. Because you can see the green. But the rear end's all been fixed to the bunker area. That's all been changed now, so that's all correct in black. And it's just looking a lot better and tighter and and more accurate. So effectively, the biggest area I've got to sort really is the chassis at the front here, because once I've sorted that, the supports I've got here, you can sort of see them moving about. They can come out of the model, and the boiler is actually, because it's sort of rising up and then just floating at this point. Once those are out, it can actually sit properly and nice and flat and not have to flex. And I can sort out the cam, that sort of stuff. So it all looks a lot better than it does now. So yeah, it's massive amounts of progress. The biggest issue as well, or what I wouldn't say the biggest issue. The biggest issue really has been lack of parts and lack of correctly coloured parts. So I've got Bricklink. I'm not sure whether it's the Bricklink order that's arriving by my bed, but the link parts to the bogies at the front and rear are light bluish grey, and I have got some ones in black on order. So I'm not sure whether they're in that order that's just arrived or later. There's a few of the little bits and pieces that could have been changed in colour. But yeah, the chassis is complete. It's a working chassis. I've had it tested. I've been testing it just as the chassis in the 6-wheel chassis in the battery box. But yeah, it does fit round R40 track, and it will fit round R40 even with the cab step on. So it's a really good achievement, I think, being able to get that little bit of detail in, because it's one of the big issues I think with longer and bigger models is that because you've got all this sort of flexibility and sort of ability for bits of the models to move, like the bogies and that sort of stuff, sometimes you do have to sacrifice things like steps and piping. So it's really nice for being able to keep that in and that sort of stuff. So that's the Suburban Tank update. It's getting on. Hopefully I should be able to finish a good portion of the block out and that sort of issue. I would have said this month, because I've got loads of parts. There's parts in there, parts there. Might not necessarily be all the correct colour, but the way I view it is if I can sort the block out and deal with any structural issues as I'm swapping it to the correct colour, then that just saves me time instead of trying to build it all in black and then just going, why isn't this working? And because the thing is with the colours as well, if it's multicoloured, you might be able to see if bricks are starting to separate slightly because of the gap, whereas you might not necessarily see that if it's all in black. Moving on to orders. The past 2 weeks, I've had 8 orders, or placed 8 orders from Bricklink. Most of them have arrived. As I've said earlier, one's arrived literally this morning. There is still one outstanding from Austria, and there's another one I placed last night, I want to say. I wouldn't want to, guarantee that it was last night, but I believe it was last night. And that again contains some more parts for the steam locos and that sort of stuff. And speaking of orders, one very nice order has arrived. For those of you who've follow my Instagram, you'll have seen the box of that saying it's arrived, but you won't have seen the actual pieces. My order for the Great War Volume 2 from Brickmania has arrived. So this is a complement to Volume 1. So Volume 1 was the Mark V heavy tank, the German sort of tractor tank, if you like, which is effectively just like a tractor and put a box on top, and then it tipped over quite a lot and wasn't very reliable and that sort of stuff. So you got the whip hit and that sort of stuff. So effectively this is pretty much every World War One model they've done since Volume 1, with the exception of the railway gun. The reason for that is that the railway gun itself is such a huge model, but this one does include the Prussian loco and the ammunition boxcar, which go with the railway gun. So it's quite interesting to have that sort of stuff. And it's got some biplanes and guns and that sort of stuff. So it's quite interesting. And the instructions for this, if you watch the instructions video on Brickmania, they sort of announced. I'm gonna rip the cellophane off because I'm getting fed up of it. They announced that they would also be doing an additional pack for the Liberty truck decals. Look at those decals. I've had to fold it in half just to get it in. That's amazing. They did an add-on pack for a bit of dust off the Liberty truck. Now you might be looking to yourself and sort of going, well, if it's supposed to be wheels and canvas, where's the canvas? Well, it's actually quite interesting. The wheels are here, and your canvas is actually in the cardboard fold inside the packaging. So the cardboard is actually a sandwich that folds out, or card that folds open, and the canvas is actually in there. So it's actually quite a nice thing. So yeah, and then the Brickmania sticker is a grenade this time. So it was the Brickmania logo before with the gear. That's actually at work on one of the doors. And then they also sent one of these, which is sort of like their releases, and then the motorboat poster. So that's quite nice, and it wasn't expecting like the postery sort of thing. So that's arrived as well. So I might sort of lurch away from trains for a little bit and do some work on the Liberty truck, and I can get that done. Moving on to events. I'm not planning any exhibitions at the moment, with the exception of Bristol. The thing about Bristol is that'll be its own episode on the show, or on the channel, not show, on the channel. And I'm hoping to record that possibly this weekend. There's a lot of stuff I want to try and do effectively this weekend, get a lot of recording out of the way. So it's nice having a rest. Next weekend is a Brick Central LUG Meet, which is being held in Lutterworth in Carter's Cafe. So I might be going to it. I'm not sure. It's in the afternoon. I have booked to donate blood in the morning at 8:10. So I'll have to check travel arrangements and that sort of thing. So that sort of thing. The week after that, the weekend after that is AFOL Escape 2, which is organised by an AFOL I'm acquainted with called Hannah, whose work has actually been featured in blocks. She's actually the creator of like a sea scene, and it's got all coral and that sort of stuff, and a couple of chests and octopus and that sort of stuff. And it's really bright and colourful. So she's been she organised the one last year, and last year it was right after I'd done a show. I'd been to a show in Sheffield, or around that area, and sort of went, I'd like to, but it's heavy on the wallet for me, so I can't or quite a lot of money, so I can't actually do it. But I'll try and do the second one. Well, the second one is this year. So what's happening is I'm actually travelling up on Friday to Leeds, and then the following morning, so I spend the night in a hotel in Leeds. The following morning, I'll actually go to the Lego store first. So get up bright and early, go down, wolf down breakfast, and then walk off to the Lego store. I'll probably take a Brick Cup with me just in case I've got anything interesting, and get a few bits and pieces, and then after the AFOL Escape event, and I can meet a few people up and trade bricks and buy a load of pieces, because the place that runs it actually is part shop and part Lego escape room. So interesting. So yeah, that's really all the updates. I've been working on stuff in the background, like trees, for example. This is a tree that I built that doesn't actually have much in the way of variety of parts. It's got like a headlight brick and some slopes and some arches. So there is a lot, but there's not a lot of those parts. Effectively two or one. The biggest component in here is actually all the leaf elements. These are the new bright green ones that we're in the pick-a-brick walls in Lego stores. So it's literally just build up the base of like the slopes and the arches. Maybe add a couple of bricks for plates for stability and to hold everything in, and the slopes as well, just for a bit variety and texture. There's four leaf elements, like the regular green ones, partly for colour and partly to help spread the canopy about. And then obviously it's literally just pile, bits on top here, there, and everywhere. There's a couple that are actually held in with these sort of carrot top piece, and they're actually just held in underneath. And again, that just adds a little bit of height to it and texture because you got the little bit. And then I added the beehive element as well, so it just neatly sort of adds a little bit, because it adds a little something to the tree, I feel. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. There's bits where it's different colour as well, so there's a bit here that's in a darker brown and there's a bit there that's in a darker brown, and it's not stuff you necessarily notice. You sort of like it if you're further away, but you might notice it if you're an AFOL and you're looking closely, and you might be reasonably close up. So there's that. That's effectively it, really. I don't really think there's any other news I need to tell you at the moment. I've been doing a few bits and pieces on the warehouse. And one of the posts I did on Instagram was the fact that 400 light bluish grey 2x2 tiles had arrived for the hard standing outside the warehouse. So I can actually do bits towards that now. The warehouse itself, I need to strip the track out because I need to change how the track is fixed to the base plate. And then I can fix that, and then those pieces can get reused elsewhere, and this can, it's just like do this, and so yeah, that's it for this update. So this is May's vlog over with. There's quite a lot of stuff I want to get through over the next couple of days of recording. So hopefully there'll be a lot more content coming onto the channel this week, providing I can edit it all as well. So. That's it for me, and see you later.